What's up, Taiwan? I'm Ethan Liu with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. More government help is on the way for earthquake-hit Hualien a month after the main shock. John Van Trist has the details.
A month on from the magnitude 7.2 earthquake that rocked Hualien in eastern Taiwan, ruined buildings still wait to be torn down. But there's damage that can't be seen, too. The tourism industry that many locals rely on is in tatters, with hotels destroyed, attractions closed, and bookings sharply down. The cabinet says it has a plan to help.
投入的重建经费呢是会超过285亿，从优、从速、从简的方式，尽力来协助地方政府还有地方的灾民。
Around $507 million will go into fixing infrastructure, including railways, plus preparing a key local attraction, rockslide hit Taroko National Park, for reopening. $180 million will go to help displaced people find new accommodation and rebuild their homes. This includes rental subsidies. And $126 million will go to helping businesses, with a special focus on boosting tourism with travel subsidies for visitors. The subsidies will be available for 3 months, starting from July. The vice premier is heading to Hualien Saturday to talk over this package with local officials.
那预计在这礼拜6，行政院副院长郑文灿会跟相关中央部会的人来到花莲，跟县府就所有的执行细节会有比较详细的一些讨论。
But some in Hualien aren't happy with the plan. The chief problem they have with it is that the tourism subsidies also cover neighboring Taitung County further down the coast. This area wasn't as badly affected, and with its tourism sector still intact, there are fears would-be visitors to Hualien will be siphoned off.
尤其是7月，他们即将迎接的是他们的热气球补助政策，把台东纳进去，确实会把花莲的这个观光效益严重的稀释掉。
Some in Hualien's tourism sector even say they may go to Taipei to protest this part of the plan, meaning Hualien's path to recovery looks to be a contentious one. Chris Ma and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Construction is Taiwan's most dangerous industry to work in, according to new government data. The Labor Ministry says more than 70% of workplace injuries and nearly half of workplace deaths happen on construction sites. It says faults from unsafe equipment or risky practices cause most of these incidents. The ministry says it wants to focus on preventing workplace falls in 2024. The data comes from a study done in response to an accident in Taichung last year. A construction crane fell from a high-rise building and landed on the metro line, killing 1 person and injuring 10 others. More than 500 migrant workers are missing after being hired to help build a new terminal at Taiwan's largest airport. Legislators say over 1,300 migrant workers were hired over the past 2 years for the project at Taoyuan Airport, with about 40% of those now missing. The Labor Ministry has asked construction companies and migrant worker agencies to respond to workers' demands for improved living conditions. It's unclear whether the missing migrant workers have returned to their countries or remain in Taiwan. It's common for migrant laborers in Taiwan to leave employers without notice. The government restricts their employment options, and brokers impose heavy fees for changing jobs. Extreme heat in the northern Philippines has revealed the sunken ruins of a centuries-old town. The town has been underwater since the 1970s, when a nearby dam was constructed and the residents were relocated. Parts of the old buildings, including the town church, have resurfaced as the dam's water level receded during the region's dry season. Locals say the ruins re-emerge every few years, attracting the attention of tourists. Southeast Asia has been experiencing extreme heat, with the heat index hitting a record 45 degrees Celsius. The Philippine government has suspended classes and urged the public to take shelter. Temperatures have been risen to record levels across South and Southeast Asia amid a sweltering heat wave. The weather is causing mayhem in the region, and as Rosie Greninger reports, the heat is creating particularly difficult living conditions for those fleeing conflict in Myanmar.
Refugees in war-ravaged eastern Myanmar queue to collect water rations. Here at this displacement camp, they're forced to survive on limited water resources, using it for drinking, washing clothes and showering. But as temperatures become sweltering, the little they're given is nowhere near enough. According to the United Nations, more than 123,000 people have been forced to flee their homes in Kaya by the conflict unleashed by the military coup in 2021. And now, the heatwave plaguing South and Southeast Asia is adding uncertainty to the lives of those displaced and worsening the situation in these camps. This week, Myanmar recorded its hottest ever April temperature of 48.2 degrees Celsius. March and April are usually the hottest months in this region, but this year the temperatures have been worsened by climate change and the El Niño weather pattern.
Charity organisation Clean Yangon delivers water at least twice a week to camps for the internally displaced.
With the rising petrol costs due to the military regime restricting fuel, transportation is becoming more difficult. Refugees in the camp say they often need to borrow water from neighbours and return it once they receive their next delivery, leaving them short for the next 4 to 5 days. Already struggling to access enough water to live, and now faced with record temperatures, the thousands displaced here are dreading the weeks ahead. Dolphine Chen and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
The Philippine Navy is praising the French Navy following the conclusion of joint exercises in the South China Sea.
We are delighted to witness the collaboration and dedication of our navies in fostering a robust strategic partnership in this region. Together, we are committed to safeguarding our mutual interests, promoting our shared values of freedom and democracy, and addressing common concerns.
The two countries wrapped up landmark naval drills by passing honors. It's the first time for France to take part in the Palikatan War Games, annual exercises usually held between the U.S. and the Philippines. It comes as Paris and Manila discuss a formal defense agreement. Taiwan's government has banned its citizens from working at China's Confucius institutes. The centers teach Chinese language and culture to people in many countries, but they have been criticized in recent years for spreading Chinese propaganda and limiting free speech at the universities that host them. Taiwan has now added the institutes to a list of Chinese government bodies that Taiwanese citizens may not work for. A senior police officer in central Taiwan has been detained on suspicion of corruption. A Taichung police inspector surnamed Ling is accused of leaking information while handling an online gambling case last year. This leak allowed some suspects in the case to escape. Ling is being charged with covering up the gambling ring's activities and colluding with the suspects. Invasive species have overrun a protected wetland in eastern Taiwan. Local officials are struggling to fight back. Zhang Van Triest has this report.
A newcomer to the Dapol Pond in eastern Taiwan, a place recognized since 2016 as an important wetland area. This red-eared slider turtle, a popular pet native to the Americas, has taken over here, outcompeting local turtles and leaving them nowhere to live. After these photos made the rounds online, inspectors went in search of eggs, but didn't find any. And they're not the only recent arrivals. Invasive suckermouth catfish and snakehead merle are in the water. And on firm spots of ground, a highly poisonous invasive plant called Santa Maria feverfew. Some locals have admitted they've released fish and turtles here. In theory, there's a fine of over $9,000 for doing that, but there's not much sign of enforcement. It's something that has environmentalists concerned.
有些时候放生，大家可能觉得是做好事，但是如果说你物种辨识，把外种认成原生种去放，它可能就是生态浩劫。
There have been efforts to fight back against these invasive species. For 7 years, there's been fishing contests aimed at catching the non-native fish, and the local government office has hired people to eradicate Santa Maria feverfew. But it's made little impact, and local officials say the money on offer isn't enough. They can only ask people not to release anything into the wetland and try to identify what species may be invasive.
是否我们可以先提出向公所一个申请，我们也请专家学者来辨别它是否是外来跟原生。如果原生，我们就同意来做野放。
Local officials say without more resources and more patrols to eradicate the invaders, winning the battle to protect native wildlife will be a tall order. Luffy Li and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
As world bee populations face collapse, a small handful of beekeepers are working to revive Taiwan's wild forests with a resilient Asian bee. Sally Anson went to meet one to see what all the buzz is about.
Carefully checking on his hives, beekeeper Zheng Hongsong has been looking after around 100 of bees colonies for over a decade. His is one of a handful of apiaries in Taiwan that raises native honeybees.
我继续养殖这一种，管理这一种东方蜜蜂，我觉得我也可以得到我生活上面的一个需要。越做觉得它是一个不错的东西，很值得推广，所以就全心投入。
There are nearly 1,000 professional beekeepers in Taiwan, and almost all of them raise Western honeybees introduced from abroad. They produce more honey and bring in more business than native Asian honeybees. But Zheng's native bees are more resilient to harsher weather and can better pollinate native plants and fruits, boosting the island's biodiversity. Here in northern Taiwan's cool, wet mountains is where native bee species thrive, as they're good at pollinating at mid to high altitudes. But as hardy as they are, external threats are taking their toll on these native bee populations. Asian honeybee colonies in Taiwan have plummeted in recent years, mostly due to a virus from China. And they're not alone. Bee populations around the world are collapsing due to climate change, pesticide use and habitat loss, which is why for Zheng it's more important than ever to raise this unique species.
那为什么会坚持？我觉得刚讲到是这个蜂蜜非常好吃，然后呢，它又对我们原始的环境扮演的很重要的角色跟责任，所以我觉得它要是存在。 对我们的环境有绝对正向的意义。
Many people prefer the taste of the organic native honey Zheng collects, saying it's not just the flavor that makes it unique.
And then it's incredibly important for our ecosystem to have healthy population of native bees. So I find this as a great example for food for collective wellness, something that's good for my health, good for even our businesses.
With the future of these essential insects under threat, the hard work of beekeepers like Zheng could help keep native honeybee populations thriving and let others share in the sweetness the bees bring to their lives. John Su and Sally Jensen for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website and follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, check out these celebrations in Edinburgh for the traditional Celtic festival of Beltane, marking the beginning of summer. I'm Ethan Liu. Take care, and I'll see you next time.